Location: Terre Haute, Indiana, USA. Shape: light. Duration: 15 to 20 seconds. No of observers. 1 Characteristics: lights on object, aura or haze around object, a very bright point of light seen in north sky. Sighting: first week of April 2010 on the night of April 5, 2010 at about midnight, give or take 10 minutes. I was going to bed when I noticed a bright ruby red light to the north of my home. The window beside my bed looks to the north and I have a clear view of Polaris just over the neighbor's tree. I am in the habit of looking out at the sky just before I lay down, sort of a last look around the neighborhood. On this night I saw a point of red light slightly lower than Polaris and slightly to the east of the star. With my arm outstretched, the light was just over my thumb's width east of the star. The sky was clear and visibility was good. The light was very bright and looked almost like a laser pointer aimed directly at me. It was motionless and held its position from the time I noticed it until about 15 seconds later when it just went out. This was followed by a just as strange puff of green light. A second or so after the red light went out, there was a halo-like flicker of light that reminded me of a light seen pointing away from you in a fog. It was as if something was in the way of the source of the green light in me. All I saw was the light that washed around the object.
Occurred the 11th of April 2010, 22 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location: Terre Haute, Indiana, USA. Shape: triangle. Duration: 30 minutes. No of observers. 2 Characteristics: lights on object, changed color. Electrical or magnetic effects: triangular object with about 3 lights that changed from bright white to all red when it slowed down. The incident occurred on the 11th of April 2010 in Terre Haute, Indiana. It lasted for at least a half an hour between 9:45 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My husband and I were on our way to return a movie rental and from there, to the gas station. A few minutes earlier, I had tried to go to the gas station that was closest to home, but the lines were backed up and the attendant said the systems were down. So, I came home and told my husband what was going on and that I'd try later. He said he wanted to make sure the tank was filled, so he decided to come along, and after returning the movie, we would just go to the gas station that's a few miles down the street. As we were leaving the parking lot of the video store, driving west, I noticed a very bright white light, coming from the east just over the trees well north of us. At first, I thought it was a low-flying plane, but it seemed to be moving faster than a plane and it had no colored lights, just very bright white. I told my husband, who was driving at the time, what I was seeing and he tried to get a look, but we were on a fairly busy street and the object was coming in and out of view from behind trees. He didn't want to cause an accident, so I just kept watching the object, waiting for it to reach an open area. While I was watching it, the object went from a fast-moving white light to nearly a stop and all the bright white lights turned bright red. It appeared to be hovering or moving very slowly in the north sky. As I was telling my husband what had just happened, that I wasn't crazy, and I knew what I had seen, we turned south. It was then behind us and out of view. While driving maybe 3 city blocks south, I noticed the red lights again, this time, in an open area in the distant southwestern sky. It must have moved really fast toward the south, without us noticing, in order for it to be that far ahead of us that soon. Finally, my husband saw it too. When we reached the gas station, the one that's a few miles from home, I went inside to prepay and the attendant said the system had just went down. My husband stayed outside watching the object that appeared to be hovering or moving really slow still to the south of us. We pulled out from the gas station, driving east, and the object appeared to be moving again slowly toward the northeast. It looked like it was going to pass directly overhead and we were in an area where we could pull off the road into a vacant lot. My husband got out of the car, looked up, and watched it slowly pass over us. He described it as a triangular object with distinct bright red lights at the corners and one white light that made only a slight humming sound. I couldn't hear anything from inside the car. I would think any plane flying that low and that slow would be much louder than a slight hum, but I could be wrong. I had my cell phone on me but didn't think to take a picture because, at that time, we were just trying to figure out what it was. It seemed to be heading northeast toward the same area where I had initially seen it. We pulled out of the lot and headed north again to the gas station nearest home to see if their systems were up yet. The object remained on the west side of us, moving north toward the east. We watched it the entire time we were driving, and this time, I tried to take a picture of it with my cell phone. The street lights and the treetops that were near the object were visible on my screen, but the red lights were not showing for me to get a picture. It was like my camera couldn't pick it up. We pulled up to the gas station, nearest our home, and I went inside to ask if the system was working yet. The attendant told me it was working fine now. So, I prepaid. I went outside to pump the gas and the pump set out of service. The attendant came over the intercom and said, "I'm sorry, it'll be a few minutes, the system just went down again." The object continued on its way to the northeast until it was out of view. It was then, conveniently, the system came back up and I was finally lit to fill up my tank. I never saw it return to the bright white lights that I had initially seen. It remained red until it disappeared from view. I don't know how to explain the systems going down whenever that thing was in the vicinity, or how I couldn't pick up the lights on my camera. I don't know if anyone else noticed this or reported it. It happened right over town and there were many people out and about. Maybe it was just a plane and the system's failing was all just a coincidence. I don't know. All I do know is it was a weird and rather frustrating experience for us. I would also like to know if anyone else experienced this.
Occurred, the 3rd of August 2010, 22 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Terre Haute outskirts, in, USA. Shape, formation duration, 3 minutes. No of observers. 1 characteristics, emitted beams. I was traveling south on US 41, about 10 or 15 miles outside of Terre Haute, Indiana. About 200 feet ahead of me, on the east side of the highway, I noticed some lights moving in the sky heading west. I thought nothing of it. Thought it was a low-flying airplane. As I got closer, I noticed that these lights were really low in the sky. About 100 to 150 featuring in the air. There were 3 perfectly round lights. At least 5 times the size of regular car headlights. The lights did not flash, the 2 end lights were green and a red light in the middle. There was a white spotlight that appeared to come from above the other 3 lights. The spotlight shined a cone of light in front of it. The colored lights were evenly spaced apart. About as wide as a sedan. As I passed underneath these lights, I stuck my head out of the car window trying to figure out what this thing was. It was moving slowly and silently, almost like it was floating across the highway. I couldn't see wings, or even any kind of depth or shape. It appeared the lights were connected by a string and all moving together. I have seen planes landing in day and night. Even at night, I could always tell it was a plane.
This was no plane. There were 3 cars ahead of me, and I know they saw this too. It completely freaked me out. I called a buddy and described what I saw. He asked had I been smoking crack. I don't believe in aliens. So this must have been a drone or experimental craft.
Occurred, the 30th of June 2011, 2 hours 0 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Terre Haute, Indiana, USA. Shape, oval duration, 45 minutes. No of observers. 1 RP advised she saw 2 lights separate into 4 lights and back into 2. Hovering for APPX 30 minutes in the area. Could not see specific object, appeared to be stars.
Occurred, the 8th of November 2011, 18 hours 30 minutes and 0 seconds. Local location, Terre Haute, Indiana, USA. Shape, fireball duration, 2 minutes. No of observers. 2 characteristics, aura or haze around object. Fireball sighting in Terre Haute, Indiana, on November 8, 2011 at 6:30 p.m. Est. Time I was sitting outside smoking and seen what looked like a fireball going up. Then it went straight across the sky, and I ran out the back door and it was gone. It was the coolest thing I have ever seen.